When the police closed my daughter's kidnapping case after 48 hours, they said, probably a runaway. My wife filed for divorce, saying, you were always too hard on her. But something felt off. I checked her closet one last time and found a crumpled note. Daddy, I'm scared. Actually, Mom. Then I heard footsteps behind me. What I discovered made me run. When the detective said they were closing the case, I swear something inside me broke clean in half. She's gone, Mr. Mercer. Most likely a runaway, he said, shuffling his papers like my daughter was just another missing wallet. Runaway, 16 years old, straight-A student, robotics team captain, and terrified of disappointing anyone, especially me. A runaway? No, that wasn't my Haley. It had been 48 hours since she disappeared. 48 hours since the world stopped making sense. The first night, I'd sat by the front door of our house in Franklin, Tennessee, every light on, staring at the driveway like she might suddenly appear. My wife, Dana, had barely looked up from her phone. She's probably blowing off steam, Eric. You're way too strict with her. Strict? I taught our daughter to text when she got somewhere, to never walk home alone, to call if she was late. That wasn't control, that was safety. She would have called, I said. My voice cracked. She would have called. By the second morning, I'd already filed a missing persons report. I gave the cops her picture, her phone records, her entire routine down to the minute. The detective, Malcolm DeWitt, took notes, nodded politely, and told me what I already knew was a lie. 90% of the time, these kids turn up in a day or two. Usually a boy. Usually a fight with Dad. He didn't understand. Haley wasn't the type. When I got home from the station, Dana was packing a suitcase. What are you doing? I asked. I can't be here right now. You're smothering me. Smothering her. Maybe that's why she left. What? Her voice was ice. You made this house unbearable, Eric. Everything has to be your way. You pushed her until she broke. It was like being hit with a bat. You think this is my fault? I think you can't stand not being in control. And now look what happened. She zipped the suitcase, grabbed her purse, and walked out. Just like that. That night, I went into Haley's room. Everything was neat, untouched. Her robotics trophies lined up on the shelf. Her posters. Her favorite hoodie thrown over the chair. Her phone was gone. Her laptop too. But on her desk, there was a small notebook, the one she used for coding sketches. When I opened it, something fluttered out. A torn piece of paper. It wasn't in her handwriting. Stop looking. She's not yours to find. No signature. Just those words. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely breathe. I called the detective, told him about the note. He sighed. Probably some prank, Mr. Mercer. Try to get some rest. Rest. The next day, I traced every transaction, every place Haley's phone had pinged before it went dark. Last location, a gas station off Route 64, 2 hours west. Security footage showed her getting into a black SUV. License plate partially obscured. Driver unknown. When I showed Dana the still image, she didn't even flinch. Just looked down and said, you should stop. You're making this worse. Worse. I said, our daughter is missing. Her eyes flicked up then, cold, distant, almost rehearsed. You should stop, she repeated, slower this time, like a warning. And that's when I knew. She wasn't scared. She wasn't heartbroken. She was hiding something. Something about my wife, about that SUV, didn't add up. And the longer I looked into it, the clearer it became. Haley didn't run away. Someone took her. And Dana knew exactly who. Before everything fell apart, we looked like the kind of family people envy. I was Eric Mercer, senior structural engineer, good salary, good neighborhood, 2-story colonial with the wraparound porch. My wife, Dana, was the kind of woman who made small talk at PDA meetings and had a smile for everyone. And our daughter, Haley, was our pride, sharp, sweet, the kind of kid teachers wrote notes home about just to say, you should be proud. And I was. But families like ours don't crack all at once. They fracture quietly, piece by piece, until one day the light hits just right and you see every damn fault line. It started the year I got promoted, more money, more hours. I told myself it was for them. The better schools, the vacations, the future. But time is the one thing you can't buy back. And I didn't see how much I was losing until it was gone. Dana changed first. At first, it was small things. More time at the gym, new clothes that didn't fit her old style, perfume I didn't recognize. She said it was self-care. Then came the locked phone, the late nights, the way she flinched when I walked into the room like she was expecting a confrontation. Haley noticed before I did. "Mom's different," she said one night while helping me make dinner. "She doesn't look at you the same." I told her not to worry, that sometimes marriages just have rough patches, that everything was fine. It wasn't. By then, Dana had joined what she called a book club, every Thursday night, same time, every week. But once, when I tried to surprise her, I called the host, a friend of hers named Maggie. Maggie told me there hadn't been a meeting in months. When I confronted Dana, she didn't even try to deny it. "I needed space," she said. "You're suffocating me." I didn't understand. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't cruel. I never raised my voice, never laid a hand on her. I was just trying to hold things together. She started sleeping in the guest room. Said my tossing and turning kept her up. A month later, she stopped wearing her wedding ring. And then, just when things seemed like they couldn't get worse, Haley found something. It was a text. She'd been using Dana's iPad for schoolwork, and a message popped up from an unknown number. "You handled it perfectly. She'll come around. Silverwood is ready." Haley took a screenshot, printed it out, and slid it under my office door. I remember because she wrote one line on the back, "Dad, I think Mom's in trouble." That was a week before she vanished. At the time, I thought it meant my wife was having an affair, maybe planning to leave. Silverwood sounded like a resort, maybe a rental house. I didn't care about that. If she wanted out, fine. But Haley, she wouldn't have left without telling me. When I found out later that Silverwood wasn't a resort, it was a remote cabin property owned by a shell company in northern Alabama, something inside me turned cold. Because Dana had been there. Her credit card showed multiple charges for gas along that route. And when I checked the property records, I saw the name listed under ownership. V. Ibanez. A man. And a name that matched the initials scribbled on the corner of that threatening note. V.I. I didn't know who he was yet, but I knew two things for sure. Dana wasn't just cheating on me. And my daughter's disappearance was connected to that man. Because whatever this Silverwood was, my wife had been there the same week Haley went missing. And if the police weren't going to find her, I would. The day I decided to stop trusting the police was the same day I realized my wife might be capable of anything. Detective DeWitt had already written Haley off as a runaway, but I couldn't let it go. Every instinct screamed that she hadn't left willingly. The more I dug, the more wrong everything felt. Haley's phone went dark on a stretch of highway near exit 42, right before the Silverwood turnoff. GPS data stopped at 8:36 p.m. That's not a runaway. That's a cutoff. When I checked the local traffic cameras, I caught a glimpse, blurry, but real, of that same black SUV pulling onto a side road. The plate matched one registered to Victor Ibanez, a man with no social media presence, no tax history, and no official address. Ghost on paper. I sent everything to the detective. He didn't even reply. That's when I started digging on my own. I took a week off work, told my firm my daughter was sick, and started tracking Dana's movements. Her gym, her book club, her nights out. Every Thursday, she'd drive to the west side of town and park her car in the same spot, an empty lot behind an old strip mall. 15 minutes later, a dark BMW would pull in. Same time, same car. And then she'd get in. One night, I followed them. Kept my headlights low, 2 cars back. They drove an hour out of town to a roadside diner, the kind of place nobody asks questions. I watched from across the lot as she laughed over coffee with the man I now knew was Victor Ibanez. He wasn't what I expected. Late 30s, polished, expensive watch but rough around the edges, like someone who'd learned charm the hard way. There was something about the way Dana leaned toward him, hanging on his every word, that made me feel physically ill. But that wasn't what broke me. What broke me was seeing him hand her a small brown envelope. She opened it, looked inside, and nodded. I took pictures, time-stamped, clear. Drove home shaking so bad I had to pull over twice. The next morning, I confronted her. "Who is he?" I asked. "Who?" "Don't play dumb, Dana. The guy you've been meeting every Thursday. Victor Ibanez." For a second, she froze, just long enough for me to know the truth. Then she said, "He's my trainer." "Your trainer gives you envelopes in parking lots?" She rolled her eyes. "You've officially lost it." "I followed you," I said quietly. "I know about Silverwood. I know about him. And I know about the note." Her face went white. "What note?" I held it up. "Stop looking. She's not yours to find." Something flickered in her eyes then. Fear, not guilt. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "Haley's desk." She stepped forward, snatched it out of my hand, and tore it in half. "What the hell are you doing?" I yelled. She didn't answer. She just stared at the shredded paper like it was radioactive. "You shouldn't have found that," she said finally. "You shouldn't be involved." "Involved?" I shouted. "Our daughter is missing, Dana." She turned away, grabbed her coat, and walked out the door. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Back off. You're making things worse for her." I replied immediately. "Who is this? Where's Haley?" No response. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just stared at that message, over and over, until it burned behind my eyes. By morning, I made a choice. If the cops wouldn't look for my daughter, and my wife was part of whatever this was, I'd find her myself. So I called an old friend from my Army days, Jack Contreras, a private investigator with a reputation for getting results. Within 24 hours, Jack had everything. Victor's fake IDs, shell companies, financials. The man had been running cons for years, insurance fraud, fake inheritances, scams involving wealthy widows. Always vanishing right before the evidence caught up. But one thing stood out. 3 months ago, Dana had taken out a $1.2 million life insurance policy on Haley, something no parent does. And Victor Ibanez had been the broker. That's when it clicked. The affair, the cabin, the note, the threats, it was all connected. Haley wasn't missing because she ran away. She was missing because she was worth more dead than alive. And my wife had helped make that happen. By the time I realized what Dana had done, she was already gone. Not missing, gone. Her clothes, her car, her laptop, all of it vanished overnight. The only thing she left behind was a single sticky note on the kitchen counter. I had no choice. "Don't follow me." That's when it hit me. She wasn't running from me. She was running from him. Jack and I started digging deeper into Victor's background. The man had a pattern. Every woman he got close to ended up dead or disappeared. There was always a life insurance payout, always under mysterious circumstances. The beneficiaries changed names and vanished into shell companies. He was a ghost with blood money in his wake. And now he had Dana. Jack tracked the Silverwood cabin. It was registered to a fake LLC called North Pine Holdings, which, surprise, was one of Victor's fronts. But what made my blood run cold was what Jack found buried in the property records. 2 insurance policies filed within a week of each other. A one for Dana Mercer with Victor listed as the agent of record. A one for Haley Mercer with Dana listed as policyholder. It was a death chain, a setup, a full-blown kill-for-payout scheme. They were going to make it look like a tragic accident. A mother and daughter lost in the woods, insurance paying out millions. Dana probably thought she was escaping with him. She didn't realize she was the next in line to die. Jack and I packed up and headed for Silverwood before dawn. It was a 2-hour drive, all back roads and fog. By the time we reached the property, the sun was coming up through the trees, lighting the cabin like something out of a nightmare. We approached quietly. The place looked deserted. One truck, Victor's, sat parked by the porch. No sound, no smoke, no movement. Jack motioned for me to circle the side while he covered the back. My heart was pounding so loud I thought it would give me away. The cabin door was unlocked. Inside smelled of gasoline and metal. And blood. I moved room to room, my hands shaking, calling out for Haley. The living room was empty. Kitchen, nothing. Then I opened the basement door and saw it. A small set of stairs leading down into darkness. And on the floor halfway down, a bracelet. Haley's. The same one I'd bought her after she made the robotics finals. I picked it up, cold to the touch. There was a noise then. Faint, like a whimper. I followed it. The basement was dimly lit by a hanging bulb. In the far corner, tied to a metal chair, was a woman. Blindfolded, wrists bruised, barely conscious. I thought it was Dana. I ran to her, yanked off the blindfold. But it wasn't her. It was another woman. Pale. Thin. Drugged. She looked maybe 20, if that. Her lips trembled. Please. Don't let him find me again. Jack came down the stairs behind me. Gun drawn. Holy shit, he whispered. She started sobbing when she saw him. He said he'd come back for me. Said he'd finish what he started. I crouched beside her. Who? Victor. Her eyes widened. No, Dana. The world tilted sideways. What? She's the one who brought me here. Said she had to make it look real. Said he'd kill her if she didn't. But she... The girl started crying again. She said you'd come. She said if anyone could find us, it'd be you. Jack and I exchanged a look. The kind that says this is bigger than we thought. I asked the girl her name. Emily, she whispered. Emily Ibanez. My stomach dropped. Ibanez. She wasn't just a victim. She was his daughter. After we got Emily out of that basement, I stopped feeling like an engineer and started feeling like a soldier again. Jack drove her straight to a hospital in Memphis under a fake name while I sat in the back seat, trying to process what the hell she told me. According to Emily, Victor had been using his own daughter as part of his scams for years. Fake identities, staged inheritances, insurance payoffs. When she got old enough to understand what he was doing, she tried to escape. That's when he locked her up. Dana had stumbled into his life thinking she'd found someone exciting. Someone who saw her, listened to her. She didn't realize until too late that Victor didn't date women. He groomed them for the slaughter. Your wife thought she could save your daughter by cooperating, Emily said, her voice weak from the sedatives. He told her if she didn't help stage Haley's death, he'd make her watch it happen. Every word was a knife in my chest. Haley was alive. That's what I clung to. But she was still out there with them. Jack leaned forward from the driver's seat. So what's the play, Mercer? You want to call the feds? I shook my head. Not yet. We've got one shot at this. We can't tip him off. Jack glanced in the mirror. You planning to go rogue? I'm planning to end this. We started building a plan the only way we knew how, with structure, precision, and the kind of rage that doesn't fade. First step, find Dana. She wasn't dead. If Victor needed leverage, he'd keep her alive until the payout cleared. That meant she was somewhere close to Haley. Jack hacked into Victor's cloud backups. The guy was careful but arrogant. He thought encrypted meant invisible. Within hours, we had a lead. Property deeds tied to North Pine Holdings in multiple states. Cabins, storage units, safe houses. One stood out. Coldwater, Mississippi. An abandoned auto shop registered to R.I. Solutions. Same pattern, false business, cash transactions, no utilities except a generator line. Jack traced Dana's car on traffic cams. Last sighting. A week ago, heading south on I-55, right toward Coldwater. To fit. While Jack prepped surveillance, I started preparing for something else entirely. Confrontation. I hadn't picked up a weapon in 15 years, but the habits never leave you. The stance, the breathing, the calm that comes when you accept what you have to do. Because this wasn't just about finding Haley anymore. It was about dismantling whatever empire Victor Ibanez had built, and making sure he never hurt another family again. I spent the next night at my workshop, drawing out blueprints of the auto shop using satellite images, mapping exits, camera angles, sightlines. I wasn't improvising, I was building a structure. A trap. Jack's contacts in law enforcement owed him favors. By morning, we had burner phones, unmarked weapons, and a van that wouldn't trace back to us. We didn't plan to kill him. Not yet. We planned to take him alive, get Haley, and expose the entire ring, the insurance companies, the cops he paid off, the shell brokers. But there was one problem. Dana called me that afternoon. I hadn't heard her voice in weeks. "Eric," she said quietly, "don't come here." "Where are you?" "I can't tell you. He's watching everything. Please, just stop." "Where's Haley?" A pause. Then, "Alive. For now. But if you try to find us, he'll know. He has people everywhere." "You took out an insurance policy on our daughter," I said through my teeth. "You signed her death warrant." Her voice cracked. "You think I wanted that? He made me. He said if I didn't, he'd—" A door slammed somewhere on her end. Her breathing changed. Then a man's voice, low, calm, and venomous. "Mr. Mercer," Victor said, "you're making this messy. You're a smart man. Be smart enough to walk away. If you touch my daughter, your daughter's fine. For now. But you keep digging and I'll change that. You think you're hunting me, but I've been 10 steps ahead since the day you met your wife. Remember that." The line went dead. Jack looked at me when I told him. "He's baiting you." "Good," I said, "because I'm done being bait." That night, we parked 2 miles from the Coldwater property. Jack launched a drone over the area. We saw 2 figures moving inside. One was Dana. The other, smaller, slighter, had to be Haley. And then we saw him, Victor Ibanez, standing by the open bay door, smiling straight up at the drone camera. Like he knew we were watching. And that's when I realized something we hadn't considered. Victor wasn't running. He was waiting. I thought I knew what kind of monster Victor was. Con man. A manipulator. A murderer who turned love into a business model. But I was wrong. He was worse. When Jack and I rolled up on the Coldwater property, the place looked dead. Rusted gates. Broken signage. A corrugated tin roof sagging in the middle. But the lights were on inside. He wanted us to come. We parked half a mile out, cut the engine, and went in on foot through the tree line. Jack covered me from the rear entrance while I approached the front. Every instinct screamed that something wasn't right. The bay doors were half open. I crouched low, peered inside, and froze. There, sitting on an overturned crate, was Haley. Alive. Her wrists were zip-tied, her hair matted. But she looked up the second she heard me. "Dad!" she cried, her voice hoarse. I didn't think. I ran. I barely made it 2 steps before the floor exploded beneath me. The impact knocked the air from my lungs. I hit concrete hard, tasting blood. My leg burned like fire. Something sharp lodged deep in my thigh. The bay doors slammed shut behind me. A metal clang echoed through the space. Then I heard it. Slow, deliberate applause. Victor stepped out from the shadows in a pressed white shirt, sleeves rolled up, gun loose in his hand. "You really are predictable, Eric." I tried to crawl toward Haley, but she shook her head frantically. "Dad, don't. It's not." She didn't finish, because that's when the woman standing behind her stepped forward. Dana. She looked thinner, her eyes hollow. Her hands were shaking, but she was holding a gun too, aimed straight at me. "Dana," I whispered. "Put it down." "Don't move," she said. Her voice was trembling, but there was something else underneath. Something cold. Victor smirked. "Touching family reunion, isn't it?" He crouched beside Haley, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She flinched. "See, Eric, your wife and I made a deal. You bring yourself here, and your daughter goes free." I stared at Dana. "You did this." She didn't answer. "Say something," I shouted. Her jaw tightened. "He's right. I made a deal." Victor stood, pacing. "You should be thanking her. Without her cooperation, Haley would have been gone weeks ago. Dana here understands something you never did. Family is leverage. And leverage pays." Jack's voice cracked through my earpiece. "Eric, there's movement outside. 2 vans. Armed. You need to get out." Too late. Victor raised his gun toward me. "You come this far for revenge, but you never asked yourself the real question. Why did your wife pick you in the first place?" Dana's hand trembled. "Please, Victor, don't." He ignored her. You were her insurance policy before the insurance policies, Eric. She came to me long before you ever met her. We built her identity together. The sweet, suburban wife. The perfect mother. The woman who could marry a man like you and make him trust her. My stomach turned. What are you saying? She was one of mine. I looked at Dana. Tell me he's lying. Her silence was an answer. Victor chuckled. She ran her first job with me 10 years ago. Seduce, marry, insure, disappear. But she got soft. Started caring about the mark. You were supposed to die in a boating accident 2 years ago. Instead, she got sentimental. Dana's voice cracked. Stop it. You fell in love with him, Victor said, amused. Big mistake. Love makes people sloppy. So I gave her another chance. Prove her loyalty. One last job. One last insurance payout. Your daughter. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Haley was crying now, shaking her head. Mom, please tell me that's not true. Dana's gun lowered an inch. It was supposed to be fake, she whispered. He promised no one would get hurt. He said it would just look real. I was going to take you and disappear, Haley. Start over. I didn't know what he was planning. Victor rolled his eyes. Oh, spare me the redemption arc. He turned his gun toward Dana. You were useful, but you're out of time. The shot rang out before I could move. Dana crumpled to the ground. Haley screamed, and I snapped. I don't remember pulling the trigger, just the sound of gunfire. Jack crashing through the side door, chaos exploding everywhere. Victor dove behind a car lift, firing back. Sparks flew, glass shattered. When the smoke cleared, Victor was gone. Slipped out through a back tunnel we hadn't seen on the blueprints. Dana lay bleeding on the floor, whispering something I could barely hear. Find her, she gasped. He's not done. Who? I asked, grabbing her hand. Her eyes fluttered. Not me. Her. The other one. And then it hit me like a brick to the chest. Emily Ibanez, the girl we'd rescued, wasn't Victor's prisoner. She was his partner. I used to think monsters were born, that something inside them just broke and they became what they were. But Victor Ibanez? He wasn't born this way. He built himself, brick by brick, lie by lie. 2 days after Coldwater, I met with Jack in a safe house outside Memphis. Dana was in critical condition, Haley in protective custody. Victor had vanished and Emily, the supposed rescued daughter, was gone too. Jack sat across from me, his laptop open, cigarette burning low. I ran every file we pulled off Victor's cloud. There's something you need to see. He clicked a folder marked Aurora. It wasn't just one scam. It was an operation. Dozens of fake deaths. Shell insurance companies. Bank accounts in 5 countries. And one name tied to every payout, Emily Ibanez. Jack leaned back. She wasn't a victim. She's the broker. The logistics. He does the seduction. She moves the money. My hands curled into fists. He used his own daughter. Jack shook his head. No. He made her. The file went back 20 years. Emily wasn't Victor's biological daughter. She was a foster child from Miami. He'd taken her in at 14, changed her name, and raised her inside his schemes. Every con she learned, every crime she committed, he trained her for it. She wasn't helping him because she wanted to. She was helping him because she believed she owed him everything. He'd taught her to see people as numbers on a payout chart, lives as assets. Dana was supposed to be her replacement, a new handler. But she'd hesitated, fell in love, got soft, and Victor hated softness. I sat there staring at the files, the photos, the payout slips, the death certificates. Each one a life ruined, family destroyed. And then I saw Haley's picture among them. Filed, dated, processed. Her death certificate already approved. I slammed my fist on the table. He's going to finish it, even if he has to do it himself. Jack looked grim. He's moving fast. I intercepted a transaction this morning. Offshore account transferred $500,000 to a shell bank in Belize. Guess who authorized it? He turned the screen toward me. Emily Ibanez. She'd signed it using Dana's credentials. I realized then what Victor's real endgame was, not just the money. He didn't need it. He had plenty. He wanted erasure. He'd been building a system that could fake deaths, move funds, rewrite identities, and vanish entire people like they never existed. And Haley, my daughter, was his final test case. Her insurance payout was already in motion, the digital paperwork complete. Once the transfer cleared, she'd officially be dead. On paper, in every government database. He wasn't killing for greed anymore. He was killing for control. The thought made my stomach turn. He wanted to own reality itself. Jack looked at me. He's moving through Atlanta tonight. One of the files shows an outbound flight to Belize using Emily's passport. If they get airborne, they're gone. Then we stop them, I said. He nodded. We've got maybe 6 hours. I stood, checked my weapon, and looked at the window. Night had fallen. For the first time since Haley disappeared, I felt clear, steady. The fear was gone, replaced by something colder. Victor didn't just take my wife. He didn't just take my daughter. He turned them into data points in his game. He thought he could rewrite our lives like lines on a spreadsheet. But he forgot one thing: I build structures for a living. And when something's built wrong, you don't patch it. You tear it down to the foundation. And that's exactly what I planned to do to Victor Ibanez. The airport smelled like jet fuel and rain. I remember thinking that, how normal the world felt while I was about to end a man's life. Jack and I had tracked them to a private airstrip outside Atlanta. One jet, engines warming. The manifest listed 2 passengers, Emily Ibanez and David Nolan. David Nolan, one of Victor's aliases. It was almost poetic. The last flight of a man who thought he could buy new identities like spare parts. We parked half a mile out and moved in through the drainage tunnel behind the hangar. The hum of the engines grew louder, vibrating through the concrete. My heart was a steady drumbeat now, no panic, no second thoughts. Jack took the north side. I cut around to the hangar's main entrance. Inside, Victor stood by the stairs of the jet, dressed in a gray suit, no gun visible. Emily was at the base of the steps, talking with a mechanic, probably a paid-off pawn. When she saw me, her eyes widened. "You shouldn't be here." "Neither should you," I said. Victor turned slowly, his smirk already forming. "Mr. Mercer, I was wondering when you'd show up." He looked different now, tired, older, but still dangerous. The kind of calm that only true predators carry. "Where's Haley?" I asked. "She's safe," he said. "She'll stay that way if you walk away." "She's alive," Emily said quietly. "In the car out back." I glanced toward the hangar doors, and for the briefest second, I saw her. Sitting in the back seat of an SUV, hands bound but awake. "You have one chance, Victor," I said. "Let her go." He chuckled. "And what? Spend my life in a cell while you play hero? No, you can't stop what I built. Kill me and the system keeps running. I'm just the architect." I stepped closer. "Then I'll make sure there's nothing left to run." Jack's voice came through the comm. "Eric, you're clear. Charges set." Victor's smirk faltered. "What did you do? Remember Silverwood?" I said. "Your cabin? Your servers were backed up there. We found the data drives, the payment ledgers, the shell IDs, everything that ties your name to every stage death. I leaked it an hour ago." His face drained of color. "You didn't just lose your money," I said. "You lost your empire." For the first time, Victor looked afraid. "You think this ends with me?" he hissed. "You think I'm the only one? You have no idea how deep this goes." "Maybe not," I said. "But I know how to make sure it stops with you." Emily reached for something behind her back. A pistol. But she hesitated, eyes darting between Victor and me. "Don't," I said softly. "You can end this right now. You don't have to be him." She looked at Victor, her father. He didn't even glance at her. "Do it," he said. "Kill him." And that was the moment she broke. Her hand trembled, then dropped the gun. "No, I'm done." Victor's jaw tightened. He lunged for the weapon, but I was faster. One shot. The echo was deafening in the hangar. Victor staggered, eyes wide, blood blooming through his shirt. He looked at me, almost smiling. You think you won, he said weakly. But you can't rebuild what's already rotten. Then he fell. Emily dropped to her knees beside him, sobbing. He ruined everything, she whispered. He said I was his reason. He lied, I said quietly. He always did. Jack came in seconds later, gun raised. But it was over. We freed Haley. She was weak, dehydrated, but alive. When she saw me, she collapsed into my arms, sobbing so hard I could barely breathe. I knew you'd find me, she said. I never stopped looking, I told her. The authorities arrived 30 minutes later. FBI, state police, everyone. Emily surrendered, giving them everything. Account keys, client lists, proof of every fake death Victor engineered. Dana didn't make it. Her final words to me, from that bloody floor in cold water, played on repeat in my head for weeks after. Find her. Keep her safe. She got that part right. Months later, after the trials and the headlines and the interviews, the world started to feel normal again. Haley was back in school, therapy helping her piece together what she'd lost. Jack moved on to another job, said he'd had enough of corpses and chaos. And me? I rebuilt. Slowly, quietly. Sometimes at night, I drive out to the edge of the Silverwood ruins. The cabin's gone now, burned to the foundation after the feds raided it. I stand there with a thermos of coffee and think about structures, how they fail, how they fall. Victor built an empire on greed and lies. Dana built a life on guilt and survival. But me? I built one truth that will never break. If you come for my family, you don't walk away. As I left the ashes that night, Haley texted me, I love you, Dad. We're stronger than him. I smiled for the first time in a long time. Yeah, baby, I typed back. We are. And that was the end of Victor Ibanez, the man who thought he could erase lives. Turns out, some things don't vanish. Some things come back. And when they do, they burn everything that tried to destroy them.